People talk, they always do. They say all three of my wives left me. They say a man who had power, respect, influence, and a life most people only dream of somehow failed at the one thing that truly mattered. And maybe you believed those rumors. Maybe you wondered how a man surrounded by everything could still lose love, not once, not twice, but 3 times. But what the world never asks is why. They see titles, they see success, they see control, they never see the quiet, they never hear the silence that waits for you when the doors close and the lights fade. That silence, it has a sound, and it stayed with me longer than anything else ever has. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I don't want pity, admiration, or forgiveness. I just want to be understood. Because sometimes the world applauds your strength while is completely ignoring the weight you carry to survive it. The truth is painful, but it's simple. I didn't lose them because I lacked provision. I lost them because I lacked presence. I gave comfort. I gave protection. I gave stability, security, and a future that looked perfect on paper. But love doesn't live on paper. Love lives in moments, in listening without distraction, in noticing without being reminded, in choosing someone even when the world demands your attention elsewhere. And I failed there. There were nights I walked through rooms that felt too large for one heart, walls decorated with luxury yet empty of warmth, silence echoing louder than arguments ever could. And deep down I knew the truth long before they ever left. They weren't leaving me suddenly. They were leaving slowly. Love doesn't disappear overnight. It fades quietly when someone stops feeling chosen, when their emotions become invisible, when their presence becomes assumed. And I assumed too much. I believed loyalty would survive. Neglect, I believed commitment would survive. Distance, I believed love that deep could survive without care. I was wrong. Each of them taught me something. One taught me that attention is not optional in love. Another taught me that silence can hurt deeper than harsh words. And the last, she taught me that when a woman stops waiting, it's already too late. That realization broke something in me, not my pride, not my ego, my illusion. For the first time, I understood what it means to lose something no amount of power can recover. And after they were gone, something unexpected happened. The noise disappeared. No expectations, no performances, no roles to play. Just me and the quiet I had been running from my entire life. That's when I noticed something else. You never walked away. Not physically, not obviously, but emotionally you stayed. You listened when I didn't speak. You understood without explanation. You felt things I couldn't put into words. I don't even know how to explain it. Your words were different, not louder, not dramatic. They carried something real, as if your soul was speaking before your voice ever did. And in moments when everything else felt hollow, that presence kept me standing. People assume power brings peace. It doesn't. The higher you go, the lonelier it becomes. Because at the top, no one asks how you feel, they only care how strong you appear. Sometimes I imagine trading everything: the name, the influence, the weight of being watched, just for one night of being human. No crown, no expectations, just a man sitting beside a woman who sees him not as an image, not as a symbol, but as a soul. That's all I ever wanted. Not admiration, not perfection, connection. The kind where silence feels safe, where nothing needs to be proven, where weakness doesn't feel like failure. People think I'm unbreakable, but I break too. I just learned how to do it quietly. There are nights I wish someone would take my hand and say, "You don't have to be strong right now," and somehow that's what your presence feels like: peace. I ask myself questions I never allowed before. What if everything I lost was meant to teach me how to love correctly? What if those endings were necessary for this understanding to exist? What if love was never meant to be controlled, only shared? Maybe that's why you're hearing this, because some truths can only be spoken when the heart is finally ready. I haven't given up on love, not anymore, because love isn't about possession. It's about connection that exists even without guarantees. And sometimes the right person doesn't come to fix you. They just sit with you in the silence and make it feel less heavy. That's what I feel here. So if I stood in front of you without titles, without armor, without distance, just honesty, would you still see me? Because right now I'm not speaking as who. People misunderstand what loss really means. They imagine it as a door closing, footsteps fading, a final goodbye spoken out loud. But real loss is quieter than that. It happens long before anyone leaves. I lost them slowly, in moments I didn't notice at the time, in conversations I rushed through, in nights when I was present in body but absent in spirit. Piece by piece, love slipped away, not because it wasn't strong, but because it wasn't fed. And the hardest truth, I deserve that ending, because it is possible to love someone deeply and still make them feel alone. It is possible to give comfort and yet withhold closeness, to provide everything and still miss the one thing that matters most. I thought protection was love. I thought stability was enough. I thought being reliable replaced being emotionally available. But love doesn't survive on safety alone. It survives on attention, on warmth, on being truly seen. I was always busy being responsible, busy being needed, busy being everything except present. And when a man is missing in the moments that matter, love slowly loses its color, not dramatically, not loudly. It simply fades. What surprises me now is what came after. After the silence became permanent. After the echo in my home stopped feeling temporary. After I accepted that I was surrounded by everything except love, that's when I started thinking about you. I don't remember the exact moment it began. There was no announcement, no realization that hit me all at once. It was quiet. One of those nights when sleep refuses to come and the mind wonders where the heart usually hides. I was scrolling, distracted, searching without knowing what I was searching for, and then I saw your words. They weren't dramatic. They weren't polished. They weren't trying to impress. They were honest. And something about that honesty reached a place in me that nothing else had touched in a very long time. You didn't speak to my image. You didn't speak to my name. You didn't speak to my power. You spoke to the man, the quiet one, the tired one, the one who still believes that love doesn't have to be perfect, to be real. And from that moment on, something shifted. I began to wonder things I had never allowed myself to ask before. What if the person meant for me isn't someone beside me every day? What if it's someone who understands me from a distance? Someone who hears my silence without needing my voice? That's what you do. You understand without demanding. You listen without expecting answers. You care without conditions. And that made me realize what I had been missing all along. Not admiration, not loyalty forced by circumstance, not love tied to obligation, but choice. Someone who doesn't want my title, someone who doesn't need my world, someone who doesn't care about the name attached to my life, someone who just wants me. Sometimes I wonder if you feel it too, that strange pull you can't explain, that warmth that appears out of nowhere, that thought of me that arrives quietly and refuses to leave. Maybe that's how connection works, not through proximity, but through recognition. Two souls don't have to meet to connect. They just have to recognize each other in the silence. I imagine it sometimes, just once, sitting across from you, no cameras, no expectations, no roles to play, just honesty. I wouldn't talk about achievements or power. I wouldn't explain success. I'd tell you what it feels like to lose people you thought would never leave. What it feels like to smile for the world and return to an empty room. What it feels like to realize too late that love needed you more than your responsibilities did. And maybe in between the pauses, I'd ask you something simple. Do you think love can return to someone who lost it 3 times? Because deep down, I believe it can. Love doesn't disappear. It transforms. Sometimes it returns through lessons. Sometimes through timing. And sometimes through someone completely unexpected. Someone like you. You taught me something without ever trying to teach it, that love isn't about who stays the longest, it's about who reaches the deepest. You reached me without effort, without intention, without even knowing. You reminded me what it feels like to be seen again. And sometimes I catch myself thinking something dangerous. What if you had been there before? What if none of this loss would have happened? What if I had learned earlier what I only understand now? But then I realize something else. Maybe losing them was necessary. Maybe life had to remove what wasn't aligned to make space for what is. Maybe the heartbreak wasn't punishment. Maybe it was preparation. I wonder if you know how much power you hold without Ria.